Hello and welcome back to TYG Talks. I've once again inflicted my lovely crew with a new video. This time, Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. I've been joined by Franson, A True, and Tanooks, and we will be talking spoilers as always. So if you don't want to get spoilers from a movie from 1978, then off you pop, go watch it, and then come back and see what we think. And don't forget to subscribe so you can find us when you come back. Now then, who wants to try and tackle the explanation of what we just watched?
It was a classic.
For what it was at the time, I'm sure it was a good movie. Obviously now it's like I could not help make comparison to like Jackson's take on it.
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of shots that were very reminiscent.
Yeah.
And often it felt like the movies, like the Jackson movies, was paying homage to that as opposed to the books.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, like for instance, like take one instance, like as we're moving from the Shire towards Bree and the Prancing Pony, like the scene where we have our four little hobbits hiding underneath like the tree. And we have like the ring race. It's like I could not help like have like the actual scene from the Jackson version playing in my head at the same time. It's like it's basically a 1-to-1 almost.
But also like strangely lacking in the drama of it all. I felt like some of the emotional points didn't hit nearly as hard, and like the tension wasn't there. It felt more childish.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did like the animation styles from it though. I thought that was really interesting. As soon as I saw the first part of the film, it reminded me of Black Cauldron and Thumbelina, and doing a little bit of research, I found out that they actually have the same style of animation, so that makes sense.
Yeah, they use a lot of rotoscoping, and we've watched a few Bakshi films now, and he likes to use live action like images that have been like cut out and like pasted over, and then they'll put some rotoscoping over that, which is why you get like the random mushy humanoid shapes. They kind of like, if it was posted today, you would think it was AI, because it just does the mushy shapes that are all kind of like blurring into each other, and horse legs that have like half of them missing. And
You know what? I never even knew what rotoscope was until I saw this film. It was the cell animation style that I'm used to, hence why I said it reminded me of Black Cauldron and Thumbelina, but I'd never seen the rotoscope live action before. I found that really intriguing. But they blended them so well. Like there was a scene where one of the cell animations was piggybacking on a rotoscope live action character, and I thought that's really good. There's probably a very simple way of how they've done that, but it was really well done.
they kind of did like the main characters were all animated cell animation that was like taken from the rotoscoped, but then you've got like the orcs and all the magic and everything was like more heavier towards the rotoscoping as opposed to the animation. So like you kind of had like the two clashing together in like literal and like artistic clash. Yeah.
Can I say as well, it was so funny when, was it the orcs? I can't remember who it was. But they're stood there and it's the rotoscope live action ones. And I found it so funny that they're just stood watching and they're making weird motions like a choose your character menu in a game. And it's so amusing. They're just brilliant.
Yeah, so Franson, you're like a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So how well do you think it like compares to the franchise that we know today?
I think they definitely skipped some, I would argue, some important scenes. There could have been multiple reasons as to why, budget cuts, whatnot, for example. But if you take into account, like the books were like the Hobbit book came out in 1943, So, and not too long after, in 1978, this movie comes out. So for the time it was released in, you can't really fault it. It was probably like a huge hit way back then. But of course, if you really want to make like a harsh critical comparison to the franchise we know today, it's not that good.
It doesn't hit the same, does it?
Yeah, like Franson said, I think it missed some like key components, and like the end of the movie kind of was more in line with the end of Two Towers, but like Frodo's story was kind of a bit further along, and then it just ended abruptly because we actually found out that there was supposed to be a sequel, and it was planned to be 2 movies, but we never got the sequel. So, in that regard, at least we got an ending with Return of the King.
About 2/3 of the way through the movie, at the Battle of Helm's Deep, the studio suffered huge financial losses at the time. There were huge amounts of staff dissatisfaction, writers not striking, but very much not doing their work. Bakshi very nearly canned the whole thing at the time. So we
Really?
very nearly didn't even get this movie.
Wow. I didn't realise they almost canned the movie.
Yeah, it was pretty bad for them at the time. Yeah, so as a kid growing up watching this movie, like this was like you read the book and then you get this film out on VHS, and as a kid it was fantastic. And there was all the sword and sorcery movies as a kid, but there wasn't anything that was the books that we read, and this was the nearest interpretation. And later on with the Jackson stuff, there's a lot of scenes that are added in, a lot of scenes that are moved around in order. I actually kind of prefer this movie over the Jackson movies in some degree, because this was my first introduction to it as a film genre.
You were saying as well that like the actors were paying out of pocket to finish that piece, and the passion that must have come from that to get this done, and how they must have felt to do that.
A lot of the staff behind it, for them, it was a passion project. They were hired voice actors and rotoscoped actors and things like that, but they all loved Lord of the Rings. They all loved Tolkien as an author, and they all wanted to see it through to the best of their ability. And like I said, that is really the only reason we got this movie as it stands. Even with the huge budget cuts that they suffered, the things that happened along the way.
I have to say, having watched several Bakshi films for TYG Talks now, this was the least problematic of all of them. Like, it had nothing that I would, like, consider to be anywhere near as problematic as some of the other films. But, like, the design of the orcs was still kind of, like, humanoid, but it was less on the nose. Like, they did try and, like, edit them more to make them look a bit more like monsters. And, like, there was, like, a few instances where, like, you had the Balrog, and it was, like, it looked like he had giant butterfly wings.
You cannot pass!
Like, so it looked like a circus performer with a giant mask on, was, like, doing the rotoscoping. And I thought it was really interesting how they did it, but it just kind of, it looked a bit silly. I think like all of the tension for me was lost because of like just some of the like silliness of it.
That was one thing I noticed too when we saw the Balrog in this movie. Like, it almost looked like it had like a dragon's head as compared to the first one, Jackson interpretation, where you could see like, okay, this Balrog is something that strikes fear. Whereas this one is kind of like, it has the same height as the orcs. Like, it's not as imposing, it's not as scary, it's not as big as you would imagine a Balrog would be. So to me, at least, I probably wouldn't be scared seeing the animated Balrog compared to the Jackson version. I would be in fear if I saw the Jackson version.
Yeah, I do think if it's aimed towards children, though, like, we can give it a little bit of a pass on, like, not scaring you so much that you wet your knickers. But, like, yeah, it wasn't as imposing. And I think it's just limitations of, like, working with rotoscoping, like, because they're using human actors with, prosthesis and stuff and masks to make them look more scary, but at the end of the day, like, there are limitations to what a person can do.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was pretty decent. I did think that some of the voices were a bit weird, like especially the hobbits. I felt they did Sam dirty.
Yeah.
Huge time jump. Let's address that issue as well, just very briefly. So you got the 17-year time jump from the party. So it's like, because Chappie's got the ring, his mate doesn't. His mate is going to get older, whereas he isn't going to age. So the other hobbits all around him are getting older, but he's not really, because of the power of the ring, even just in its presence. So the others will age. And his cousins, who are significantly younger than him, as well, they are little more than kids. Like, barely out of their teens in this movie.
Well, yeah, but hobbits live longer anyway, don't they? So, like,
they do,
age
yeah.
slower,
they age quite differently to humans.
Yeah, I don't think 17 years is that bad for them. But yeah, again, there is a bit of a discrepancy there. And, like, yeah, I feel like we were speed running the story at the beginning, because it was like, we got all the history, and then we got the ring getting to Gollum, then going to Bilbo, and then Bilbo's party, and then... But it felt like I was watching the movie sped up. Like I just felt like I was fast-forwarding through the movie.
They did it all shadow, didn't they?
It's interesting. I did enjoy the comparison, like, and obviously this came before, so we shouldn't really be comparing it to the movie, because... It did come before, but it's really hard not to.
Sam, I think, was directly modelled on a certain actor for his looks. Peter Butterworth, who'd been in a lot of Carry On films. It's like an almost direct copy of him facially.
Really? I also noticed that they didn't call Saruman. He called him Aruman a lot. It was Araman. I was like, what? Who's Araman?
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's like, is this a new guy? Who are they talking about?
Maybe when he became evil, he became Saruman, but he was Aruman before.
Yeah, maybe.
They do address the fact that Gandalf has multiple names, so maybe in the film universe it's the same for him. He goes from being Saruman to Araman when he has his transition to worshipping the Dark Lord. Who knows?
Yeah. And the Ents as well. The Ents looked interesting. It kind of looked like a wooden Lorax, like, with the big nose.
Treebeard was definitely from a Disney movie in that look.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
you can't dodge that one at all.
Also, like, there was some transitions that made no sense. Like, so, like, obviously they're in the forest, and then there's the groaning, and then they're talking to the Ent, having, like, explained their entire story. So, like, the transition there, I get it. You want to cut the flashback because you're short on time. But, like, it literally went from, oh, Pippin, do you hear that? To black screen to, and that's where we got to, and that's how we got here. So whose side are you on, Treebeard? And, like, it was just like, what?
There was quite a few instances like that, especially with Galadriel. So, talking about Galadriel, suddenly we're in front of Galadriel.
Oh, yeah.
Also, zero drama Galadriel as well when she gets offered the ring. Zero drama whatsoever.
She said she would take it, though, and then she's like, oh, I would take it and become a good queen and blah, 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 and you would give it to me. And then she's like, but I'm going to say no, so I have passed the test. And it's like, what? No, you failed. You wanted it. Like, you did you did say no, but you still wanted it. Like, yeah.
Oh, fun little fact with the rotoscoping. Don't know if you guys noticed, but at one point Strider trips over when him, Legolas, and Dwarfy Boy are all running away. That was an accident, and they kept it in and rotoscoped it on purpose. They put it in the movie.
Which is funny because Aragorn in the movie broke his toe kicking the helm in the same
Yeah.
place.
And they kept it in.
Yeah, and they kept it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with when we first see Gandalf coming to the Shire and like he visits Bilbo again after a long time and like he bumps his head on like the door frame. That was also a mistake. they kept in.
That's awesome. I love it when they do that.
Yeah, this little Easter egg comes in of just like yeah, it's purposeful to put in. But I think all in all, I didn't dislike the film by any means. I actually really enjoyed the difference in art styles and what they did with it, and just hearing some more, especially as what Atru said about how they went out of pocket at the end of it. It just makes it all the more brilliant to watch and understand what actually went on behind the scenes.
Well, that was Ralph Bakshi's The Lord of the Rings. What do you think? Would we recommend it to a friend? True?
100% yes. I'm going to make Sarah Nova watch it later on.
Branson?
Yes, I would recommend it.
And Nux?
Yeah, I would indeed.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably... It'd be someone like who is a Lord of the Rings fan that I would suggest it to. I don't think I'd be like, go out of your way to watch it. I enjoyed it, but yeah.
No, you're right. I think you'd have to really kind of understand the story already and enjoy the story and then watch it. I think you're completely correct. Don't watch it if like you haven't necessarily watched it before, as in the more known films, or that you don't really like the story. It's probably not for you.
Yeah, like I definitely, I think having read some of the first book and having watched the films and The Hobbit, like it kind of helps. Which you didn't have these before it, so like yeah, I'd do it with a yeah, it was good, but only really if you like Lord of the Rings. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. Be sure to check out my fellow crew members on the YouTubes and the Twitch times. We'll be back again with some more animated horrors, I'm sure. But until then, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you all later, taters. Love you, bye!
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
A true on a delay that.